Oh no!
You know, what can I say? I die hard.
Sonic 06 is an absolutely baffling experience. This isn't a typical Sonic game. It's the most infamous one. Ever since it came out almost 20 years ago, everyone has talked at length about how terrible it is. There are so many problems on display here. 06 is a total mess. Many people consider it one of the worst games ever made, and that's kinda crazy because its predecessor Shadow the Hedgehog wasn't warmly received either.
This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me, which is fine by me, which is fine by me.
We are officially at the low point of the series. Or are we? You see, in the many years since this game was released, a lot of people who grew up playing it actually enjoyed 06 and have started defending it online. In the Sonic fan community, there are now two camps. People who despise 06 and people who like it, or at least defend it. Now for this video, I'm not going to pretend like what I have to say is groundbreaking. 06 has been thoroughly analyzed on YouTube for many years at this point. But I think my perspective on this game is unique because I didn't play it as a kid. Instead, I grew up watching videos of people reviewing 06 and hating the experience, so I stayed away from it even though I love Sonic games. But then in 2016, I watched a really funny playthrough of 06 and I was inspired to finally check out the quote-unquote worst Sonic game ever. I played the entire thing on my PS3 and I hated it. However, when I returned to the game for this video, I surprisingly had a very different experience that genuinely blew my mind. So is this game terrible or underrated? Well, let's uncover the two together. This is Sonic 06. Development began in the fall of 2004, where the game was envisioned as a rebirth of the series. The simple title Sonic the Hedgehog was chosen to echo this, although I personally don't like it because that's what the first game is called. That's why everyone just calls it Sonic 06. The plan for this game was to bring back elements people praised from the adventure titles to create the ultimate Sonic experience. 06 was first shown in 2005 at E3 and the Tokyo Game Show. The trailer I'm showing looks very cool, and it even teased a playable Super Sonic at the end of it. In Tokyo, a playable demo was available that showed off planned features like a day and night cycle. But creating the game was difficult. Sonic's co-creator and longtime series producer Yuji Naka would resign from Sega, or he was fired, depending on what version of the story you believe. Regardless, he would not be involved in development anymore. Takashi Iizuka also had much less influence this time because he was leading the team for Shadow 5 and working on other games. As a result, Sonic team designer Shun Nakamura became the director of the project. Sega wanted the game to release on all the 7th generation consoles in time for Christmas 2006. When they received development kits for the Wii, they realized this wasn't feasible due to that console being substantially weaker than the Xbox 360 and PS3. But Sega still wanted a Sonic game on there. As a result, it was decided that the team would be split in half. The first team would make Sonic 06 for the 360 and PS3, while the second team would design Sonic and the Secret Rings on the Wii. So now they had to release the game in time for Christmas, with only half of their team working with 2 new consoles they didn't have experience with. The developers were in a mad rush to get 06 out in time. They received numerous bug reports from quality assurance testers, but they ignored them because they were on a deadline. The game released in November 2006, and as you can expect, it was a massive success. All the issues the testers noticed weren't there. Sonic 06 was really fun and polished. Everyone loved the story, and they praised the near non-existent load times. I guess that goes to show, when you have to rush like crazy, it all turns out for the better. Nah, I'm just kidding. The game was slammed by critics and fans alike for being a broken mess.
What? Oh no!
Remember when I gushed over Sonic Adventure 2's opening? How it perfectly draws in the player and does a fantastic job letting you know you're in for an awesome experience? Well, I want to do the same thing here, because 06's intro is similar since it too captures the player's attention and sets the tone for the rest of the game. We begin with the gorgeous FMV that looks like it came from Final Fantasy. It's the city of Soliana's Festival of the Sun, which was presided over by Princess Elise. During the ceremony, Dr. Eggman attempts to kidnap the princess because he wants something called the Flames of Disaster. Sonic arrives and fights Eggman's robots before saving Elise. I love watching Sonic in this scene. My favorite part is when he tips over one of Eggman's robots instead of attacking it. That's really fun. As you can see, the human characters like Eggman are much more realistic this time. I'm personally fine with these changes, although they become more of an issue later on. I know a lot of people hate Eggman's look here, but it didn't bother me when I was playing. Except in this scene, where we get to see his eyes. Ugh, I don't like it. Next up is one of the regular cutscenes, and these are not very impressive. They look so dated, probably because this was Sonic Team's first time working with HD consoles. Elise gets captured, and Sonic needs to rescue her. There's a loading screen that takes me to a hub world. I walk around it for a bit until I see Tails, and we get another loading screen. Tails offers to tag along for the adventure. Cool. Cue the next loading screen. I discover that to reach the first level, I need the Lightspeed Dash. In this game, the upgrades from the Adventure series are back, and they're sold at a shop in Soliana. To get the money, I have to complete a mission for this dude. He explains what I have to do, and I accept. Enter another loading screen. Now the guy explains what I have to do again. Another loading screen plays. I complete the mission and we get our third loading screen. The man congratulates us and we get the money. The last loading screen plays and we're back in the hub world. What was that? Why does a side quest require 4 different loading screens? The first and third ones are just a text box. And the loads themselves are not fast. On average, they take around 15 seconds. Why does it take that long to load something so simple? I remember hearing years ago that the game loads the full hub world every time you're in it, and I think that's why these screens take forever. But why does the game need to load a full area during a text box? This is crazy. The worst thing is, every single side quest is like this. You have to sit through multiple loading screens. It is extremely tedious. By the time I finally enter the first stage, I've been playing for 12 minutes, and the only actual gameplay I've done so far was the tutorial mission. We get a loading screen, and then it's finally time to play. Things are going fine. I'm gliding on some water, and I think I hit a shortcut, which is cool. Maybe this won't be so bad.
No! This is terrible!
What just happened? I glitched through the ramp and ended up on the opposite side of it. I tried to walk backwards, but I couldn't. I had to walk into the water and die. 24 seconds in, and I've already encountered a glitch that killed me. I tried the level again, and this time I beat the evil loop. But I learned that Sonic was bit by a radioactive spider because I did not know he could defy the laws of physics. Yeah, the loops do not work very well in this game. When I said the intro does a great job setting up 06, I really meant it. The issue is this game is a buggy mess, and you can see that immediately. Due to the rush development, Sega essentially released the beta, meaning there's a lot of obvious flaws that we're stuck with. Another example of this is when I reached a group of enemies and the frame rate tanked. 06 tries to run at 60 FPS, but it frequently fails at that. Frame drops are extremely common, and it is very annoying. But the stage itself, aside from these issues, is playable. I like how it has some alternate routes, and Sonic feels decent to play as. The controls in this game are noticeably better than in Shadow the Hedgehog because the characters aren't slippery. If you haven't noticed, the level is a homage to Emerald Coast from Adventure 1. It even tries to recreate the iconic whale chase. Emphasis on tries because the Sonic game on the Xbox 360 slows down during the sequence. It's too much for the console, even though 7 years earlier, SA1 on the Dreamcast could handle it completely fine. Now we play as Tails, and right off the bat, you'll notice he is incredibly slow on the ground. Sadly, this isn't exclusive to him either. Sonic himself is much slower than we're used to, but at least he runs at an alright speed after a few seconds. Tails is not so lucky. It's very strange to have a Sonic game where the characters aren't fast. How does that even happen? That's why the levels are filled with dash pads, because the game knows you want to go fast, except the characters can't do it, so the stages need to artificially give you that speed. This is honestly just poor game design. Tails can still fly in the air like in SA1, except his airspeed is also worse than before. To fight enemies, he throws dummy ring bombs, which technically did come from Sonic Heroes when he was separated from the other characters, yet it still feels weird. And the attack is slow if you use it on the ground. This Tails section is not very fun. We arrive at the last part of Wave Ocean, and it's called a Mach Speed section. Here Sonic starts running insanely fast. so fast that you can't stop him. You need to dodge the sea of obstacles in your way until you reach the goal ring. I begin the segment, and I hit a ramp that glitches out and causes me to hit this rock. Then I tried to lightspeed dash, and I didn't realize this makes you go faster, so I got a really funny death screen. Oops. The Mach speed section is pretty annoying. Thankfully, this is only the first level, so it's not too difficult. After beating the stage, we get another loading screen. Then we discover that Eggman got away with Elise. The level was basically pointless. I'm starting to think running after an aircraft on foot was not a smart plan, especially when the surrounding area is an ocean. Finally, we get another glorious loading screen to exit the stage. I've been playing for 20 minutes, and all that has happened is Elise got kidnapped by Eggman, we met up with Tails, I played a buggy level that accomplished nothing, and I sat through 11 long loading screens. Actually, I missed one after the FMV. My bad. I sat through 12 long loading screens. When we compare this to SA2, in a mere 7 minutes, we see Sonic escape from a helicopter, flee the military in an awesome level, fight a boss, meet Shadow for the first time, set up a mystery on why he framed Sonic and how he can teleport, and see Sonic get arrested. The opening of 06 is very lame and slow-paced in comparison, which is crazy because this is a Sonic game. It's astounding how quickly you can see there's something seriously wrong with this game. An interesting thing about 06 is it's very inspired by the Adventure series. We can see that in the game structure. Like SA1, there are hub worlds, and it's here where you enter the stages. By talking to the townspeople, you can complete side quests that consist of various tasks, such as racing someone, finding a dog, or fighting enemies. Some of these missions are required to progress the story, mainly the combat ones. Whenever you finish one of these, you get a ranking. Except now your ranking determines how much currency you get. This incentivizes you to get higher ranks in order to afford the more expensive upgrades. I actually really like this feature since it gives you an immediate reward for playing well. Instead of emblems, this time you get gold medals for beating stages and boss fights. But wait, there's more. Littered throughout the game are silver medals you can collect. There are so many of these. I think there's almost 400 total. 06 has a ton of replayability if you're a completionist. Or psychotic. I would not recommend going for medals or doing any of the side content. There's no reward for 100% besides an achievement. No playable Metal Sonic or Green Hill Zone. Don't even bother. As we can expect at this point, there are multiple playthroughs in this game that are called episodes. At default, the only one available is Sonic's. By playing through this, you can unlock Shadow and Silver's playthroughs. Silver is a new character who has a fantastic design. I've always loved how he has telekinesis powers and a green aura around him whenever he uses them. The other addition to the cast is Blaze the Cat. Okay, technically she isn't new. She made her debut in Sonic Rush on the DS a year before this game, but I never played Rush, so she's essentially a new character in my mind. Her gimmick is she has fire powers and can run as fast as characters like Sonic and Shadow. Even though there are only 3 campaigns, there are a lot more playable characters. Each episode features 2 side characters who occasionally help the main Hedgehog progress through stages. You don't play as these guys that often, which I think is fair. In my opinion, if you're making a 3D Sonic game, Tails and Knuckles should be playable characters, but they shouldn't have as much gameplay as Sonic. I think the best thing about the side characters is they're not looking for pieces of the Master Emerald, fishing, or defeating 40 enemies. Everyone is just trying to reach the end as fast as possible. That is great. It's what I was asking for back in Adventure 2. Each campaign goes through the same levels, but the characters all play differently from each other, and in general, the stages have altered level design, like in Adventure 1. You also do them in a different order in each episode, making the game much less repetitive than Heroes, and especially Shadow of 5. Overall, I think the game structure is good, at least on paper. The adventure formula worked well. It makes perfect sense to try it again. Although, maybe they shouldn't have because they screwed it up. Man, I wish I could perform Chaos Control myself and stop the review here.
Smile.
Yo, shut up! It's time to do a deep dive into the gameplay. What I'm gonna do is discuss each episode individually and describe my thoughts as I played them. I'm skipping the plot for now because I would rather save that for its own section, which I'm dreading. Okay, let's begin with the Sonic episode. I already covered Wave Ocean, so the next thing we need to do is save this girl. There's a small bridge in Soliana, and I noticed it's really easy to jump into it and cause the camera to completely freak out. This is one of the first objects you encounter in the game, and it is completely busted. Sonic saves the princess, and we meet Silver for the first time.
I've been looking for you. You're the Iblis trigger.
What is that sound effect? Why does he sound like a cartoon UFO? We have a boss fight against Silver, and it is amazing.
It's no use! 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 No!
We did it, folks. We finally have a voice line that rivals Oh No. Silver's a demon at first, because the only save time to hit him is when he's already levitating objects. The issue is, you can never see him because of the camera, so you need to rely on his stupid voice lines to know when he's vulnerable. It's not that difficult when you figure it out though. This fight is one of the highlights of the game for me, because if you position yourself correctly, Silver can launch you through the invisible wall, and you can leave the boss fight and explore the hub world. For some reason, the entire area is loaded during the fight, even though you were never supposed to access it. Even the bridges are loaded, except they're invisible. I meet up with Silver again, and he proceeds to throw me out of the entire game world. This goes on for a full minute. It is incredible. By the way, most of the boss fights in this game have 4 loading screens each. After the Silver fight, I ran around the Soliana hub road, and honestly, it's kinda neat. I think it's cool that Sonic gets to run around Italy, even though it runs like garbage. And the hub road isn't too large, which I appreciate. I genuinely prefer it to any of the adventure fields in SA1. I never thought I'd say that, but yeah, I like this specific hub world with Sonic. Sadly, the next one isn't so great, since it's mostly flat terrain that all looks the same. Oh yeah, and the game briefly freezes all the time here. Before the next level, we have a combat mission, and here's where I discovered that you can no longer damage enemies by jumping into them. Which makes no sense, because this was a feature all the way back in Sonic 1. Sonic and Tails reunite with Knuckles, and the cutscene is blatantly unfinished. What is wrong with Tails' face? Is this poor lighting or something? This happens in other cutscenes too. How embarrassing. Whatever, we enter White Acropolis that starts with the classic snowboarding section. Except it feels like garbage, and it was hard to perform tricks here. Even when they work, they're nowhere near as cool as they used to be. Aside from that, the stage is fine. Thankfully, the tail section is okay, since you can fly over everything. I tried using the spin dash in this level, and discovered that you can't jump out of it in 06, meaning it's not that helpful. Man, remember the SA1 spin dash? I miss those days. The highlight of the stage is at the end, where there are multiple routes to reach the goal ring. I'll give the game credit, that's some good level design. Eggman teleports the group to the future, taking us to Crisis City. The opening boarding section is pretty cool, with the setting of an apocalyptic city where monsters keep appearing to attack you. The problem is there's so much going on here that the frame rate chugs. Crisis City is the first stage that has extensive rail grinding, and I learned that rail switching, once again, does not work correctly. How is Shadow the Hedgehog the only game that did this right? As for the rest of the level, I kinda enjoyed it. It's still buggy with a slow Sonic, but the level design itself is solid. You have alternate routes that require skill to reach, some good platforming, and cool set pieces. At this point, I started to realize something crazy. I sorta like this game. I know I complained about Wave Ocean, however I didn't hate that stage, and the following levels all had more moments I enjoyed than disliked. And the bugs aren't bothering me. I actually think they're entertaining. 06 is a game that's really fun to watch and talk about because it's crazy. Like, I've shown friends this game just to see their reactions. Objectively, it's bad, but so far, I was surprisingly having a good time. Even the loading screens haven't been that irritating. The level concludes with another Mach speed section that I remember being very difficult, but I managed it fine. Although it does suck how when you press the jump button, Sonic can't move himself at all in the air. And this area runs poorly with all the obstacles on screen. The frame rate is so horrible that the result screen looks like it's in slow motion. Oh my lord. Flame Core isn't as enjoyable as Crisis City, but it's still a decent stage. And the music in the first half is awesome. Strangely enough, this is the only level where I found the invincibility power-up. Am I missing something? Because it feels like this is barely in the game. I'm surprised they didn't remove it, like they did with the shield power-up. My least favorite section in Flame Core is near the end. You have to play as Knuckles to activate these orbs all at once in order to leave the room. Knuckles sucks. He is super slow, and his glide is pathetic. He descends much quicker than before, and it makes activating all the orbs together annoying. The only way you can fight enemies is with a dive and an awful melee attack. The worst part about him is sadly an issue Rouge shares. They both frequently get stuck on walls. This is very annoying to play around, and it's another example of how unfinished 06 is. It's a basic mistake that effectively ruins two characters. What made this section worse is I personally had a hard time seeing what was happening because the room is too dark. In general, I think the lighting in this game is not good, and this is the most obvious example of that.
I found a Chaos Emerald.
Don't touch it!
Why does Shadow sound so angry there? Oh man, this game is absolutely hilarious. We finally returned to Soliana. Wait, no. We returned to Soriana, according to the newspaper. It's here where we can purchase the Bounce Bracelet, an extremely useful upgrade for beating enemies with giant health bars. I wish we got it sooner, because mashing the homing attack has sucked, but it's better late than never. Welcome to Radical Train, one of my favorite stages. It's well designed, has memorable gimmicks, and is relatively polished for this game. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is they brought back the bonus text in 06, and that small detail makes the gameplay more satisfying for me. Wow, am I really that easy to please? We get a boss fight against a robot called the Egg Genesis, a very obvious reference to the iconic console, the Virtual Boy. This battle surprised me because it might be the most complete segment in the whole game. The frame rate feels more stable, it's not that buggy, it just works correctly. It's a decent fight. I also like the first boss where you fight the Egg Cerberus. In Tropical Jungle, the stage is a slight twist where Sonic is holding Elise the whole time. This level is fine, although one thing I hate is you're supposed to have a shield that damages enemies, but it doesn't work sometimes, and I don't know why. Oh well, at least it's short. What follows makes absolutely no sense to me. Elise gets kidnapped, and for some reason, we play as Tails, ostensibly to rescue her. Tails goes back into Wave Ocean and plays a shorter version of the level, including the segment where you played as him before. And then, we get an unrelated cutscene and return to Sonic, never to bring up this Tails interlude again. Tails didn't rescue Elise or accomplish anything. Why is this here? It's completely pointless, and we already played this level, and Tails was there too. The only reason I can come up with for why this level exists is in the other episodes, a side character gets an exclusive stage. However, those progress the story and aren't recycled from an existing stage within that episode. This is so weird. We're almost done with Sonic's campaign, and the shop starts selling us gems. These are easily the best abilities in the game. The red gem lets you slow down time, the blue gem gives you a speed boost, and my personal favorite, the purple gem lets you repeatedly jump in the air. These all sound kind of broken, right? I bet you're wondering what the catch is. Well, see that meter in the corner? It's supposed to decrease when you use the gems. But it doesn't, either because they forgot, or the code doesn't execute properly. Consequently, Sonic essentially has superpowers now. You can infinitely fly with the purple gem, spend entire levels farming time bonuses with the red gem, or phase through matter altogether with the sky gem. These are very fun to use. There was supposed to be a rainbow gem that would allow you to use Supersonic in the levels. Unfortunately, this was scrapped along with the day-night feature when they started rushing the game out the door. Before the penultimate stage, Sonic has to complete the Trials of Soliana, which are basically 3 side missions in a row. Or as I like to call it, 12 loading screens. Ugh, this really kills the pace after you get the gems. Kingdom Valley is a good stage for the most part. I should mention that in this level, you play as Silver for a portion of it. This character crossover happens in the stage Aquatic Base during the Silver and Shadow campaigns as well. I'm not sure why they did this, but I'll reserve my thoughts on Silver for his episode. At the end, we reach the final Mach Speed section, and Jesus Christ. This part where you reach this curve and have to run along a waterfall killed me so many times. I could not figure out why it was happening. I would enter the curve and then lose control of Sonic as he kept moving upwards until he died. I raged during this section. I just kept dying for no reason. It turns out, the answer is you're supposed to be on the bottom part of the curve in order to maintain control of Sonic the whole time. How was I supposed to know that? This ruined the whole stage for me. I spent 11 minutes alone trying to beat the Mach Speed section. It was awful. It's a shame because this part looks great. You're running in between 2 waterfalls at the fastest speed we've ever seen Sonic before. I should love it, but I can't because I despise the gameplay. At least I'm done with the Mach Speed sections now. The final level is Aquatic Base, and it's unremarkable. At one point you have to move a ball around a room with lasers. It can be vexing, but aside from that the stage is manageable, especially since I used the red and purple gems to cheese some areas. Tails and Knuckles have the last sections of the episode here, and that sucks because they're still not enjoyable to play as, although at least these parts are short. The final battle against Eggman is very similar to the end of Sonic's story in SA1, except it's much longer and nowhere near as fun. To give 06 credit, I do think it is cool that to hurt the boss, you need to ride him into debris. Once Eggman goes down, we are done with the Sonic episode. Overall, I sorta liked it, mainly because I was okay with most of the stages and the main hub world. And I think my expectations were extremely low. I kept thinking, wow, this is much better than I thought it would be. There are numerous aspects I hated, such as the mock speed sections, the horrendous frame rate, or the bad side characters. Collectively, they more than outweigh the pros, but I can't deny that I had a good time here. Even some of the bugs, I started accepting on an ironic level. In general, I dislike numerical ratings. I don't think art falls into a quantitative scale, yet for some strange reason, when I beat this episode, I started thinking 4 out of 10. So yeah, I had fun playing Sonic 06. I'm not defending the story, we'll get there, but I will say Sonic Team kinda cooked with the gameplay. Hopefully, things only improve from here. I'm excited to see what this new character Silver the Hedgehog plays like and... oh my god!
This is terrible!
The episode opens in Crisis City, the home of Silver and his friend Blaze. In a cutscene, we see Silver destroy a pillar of fire and shoot across the sky with his powers. The reason I bring this up is Silver does not play like this at all. He can fly in the air, however it's more like a hover that doesn't move very fast or go that far. Strangely, the optimal way to use it to get as much distance as possible before the meter runs out is to repeatedly tap the A button. It looks stupid, but it helps you get through the stages quicker. Silver's gameplay is very combat focused. The way he fights is by using his telekinesis to pick up objects and then throw them at enemies. He can also catch some projectiles and chuck them back at the robots. The first issue I have with Silver is the most transparent. He is so slow. It takes him forever to get anywhere, and this makes his whole campaign feel longer than it actually is. You can technically speed him up when you unlock the teleport dash ability later on, but his distance is pathetic. I think hovering in the air is the fastest he goes. At least it feels faster. Regardless, moving as Silver feels antithetical to the whole point of the series. And he's the main character in this playthrough. We play as Blaze for the first time here. She's pretty similar to Sonic, except I think she's a bit faster than him. She has a variation of the homing attack, a neat double jump, and a grounded fire spin that I had a difficult time using. I've heard multiple people say that Blaze is the best character in 06, and I disagree with that take. You barely play as her, and when you do, none of her areas are interesting. I enjoyed using Sonic more because he has better level design, feels less clunky, and has access to the gems. After the stage, Silver gets taken to a hub road, and it's here where his speed really got on my nerves. There's a vast empty field you need to explore, and your character in a Sonic game is moving at 5 miles per hour. Why is he like this? It's time for Tropical Jungle, which has the honor of having the worst frame rate in the whole game. Look at my footage. I did not alter this. The game cannot keep up with the action at all. Another annoying thing about the stage is it's not clear where to go, so I got lost here. During the level, I realized a massive flaw with Silver's gameplay. Sometimes when you grab objects to launch at enemies, they go off in random directions and miss the target. This happens due to the poor physics engine, and there's not much you can do about it. You have to accept that your attacks will randomly fail for no reason. That's great. I love it when the combat doesn't work correctly. Blaze goes through Wave Ocean by herself, and I would enjoy it more if I didn't just play through the same stage twice with Sonic and Tails. Still, this is easily the highlight of the whole episode since you don't have to play as Silver. You know, the main character. Silver meets up with Amy, and we enter Dusty Desert, what many consider to be the worst stage in the entire game. By now, I've seen almost everything with Silver. Most of his gameplay is the combat, and it's way too simple. All I'm doing is launching objects at enemies. It takes forever, doesn't work properly, and most importantly, it's not fun. If I had to give some praise, I would say that Silver's platforming is decent, and I appreciate when the game gets a bit creative with his powers, like balancing boxes on these scales to jump across them, or bending metal bars. The best example of this is you can levitate crates by standing on top of them, and then fly from there for shortcuts. That's awesome. I wish the levels focused more on the platforming, because I think it's infinitely more interesting than the monotonous combat. Silver's boss fights aren't any more interesting than his levels. All of them are the exact same. You dodge their attacks, and when they're vulnerable, you throw everything in your vicinity at them. It's extremely lame and unimaginative. How do you beat Shadow the Hedgehog, the ultimate life form? You use his greatest weakness: wooden barrels. During Dusty Desert, we play as Amy for the first time, and yikes. She is the slowest character in the game. This is her max speed. It's awful. She can turn herself invisible for some reason, has a double jump with low momentum, and can only fight with her grounded hammer move. The range on the attack is non-existent, so expect to frequently take damage with her. She is abysmal in 06. Many people consider her the worst character, but she's barely in the game. For my money, that honor goes to Silver.
No way!
Congratulations, my friend. You did great. On the topic of Amy, you only used her 3 times in the game, with one of those being in the last story. That's the same amount you used Knuckles, and I have to ask, why are these characters even playable? Their gameplay is almost non-existent, they're not fun to use, and they contribute essentially nothing to the story. 06 was such a mess in development that some of these characters should have been removed, especially with how horrible their gameplay is. Dusty Desert ends with the ball puzzle, a section where you have to use the horrendous physics engine to guide this ball into a hole before its timer runs out. It is very slow and frustrating since it's impossible to predict how the ball will behave whenever you push it. And Silver's like the same speed as the ball, making it harder to line up the pushes. This puzzle is infamous for a reason. Everyone gets jammed here, sometimes for upwards of 30 minutes. It is the worst. Either I'm nice at this game, or I got extremely lucky because the puzzle only took me 7 minutes. Keep in mind, that's still abysmal for a Sonic level, but I was expecting it to take much longer. After returning to the hub road, we thankfully get a good upgrade for Silver. The Psycho Shock that stuns most enemies, allowing you to quickly kill them or use them as projectiles. This upgrade has been long overdue because it makes the one-dimensional combat two-dimensional. It also speeds up the whole process since you're not as reliant on the broken physics engine. This does mean you get hit more frequently since the move takes a bit of time, but it's worth it. White Acropolis is the last time you use Blaze, and the camera here is very poor. This isn't contained to this level either. 06's camera is awful. I find myself constantly adjusting it, which is not fun. Other than that, White Acropolis is okay, like relatively speaking. I don't have much more to say about Silver's campaign at this point. I think the combat is tedious, I hate having to move around the hub roads with him, and the whole playthrough is incredibly boring. We're nearing the end of the episode, so now there are more required side missions where you fight even more enemies. I learned during one of them that if you fail a mission, that adds 2 extra loading screens. One to remind you of your failure, and another kicking you back to the hub road where you need to go through 4 more loading screens to complete the mission. Oh my god. During this episode, the loading screens started to bother me. There's too many of them in every stage and boss fight that it makes the slow game even slower. 06 took me 12.5 total hours to beat, and I guarantee you at least an hour of it was me sitting through loading screens. It's absurd. Silver has to go through the Trials of Soliana 2, and 2 of the 3 missions are more combat challenges. Ugh, this sucks. Kingdom Valley is also the second to last stage in this episode, and it feels like the same area, copy and pasted 5 times in a row. I was genuinely excited when I got to play as Sonic during the level. His gameplay is far better than Silver's. It's crazy. But then we're back to Silver, and the joy is gone. Now we're at Flame Court, the last level. Thank God. Unfortunately, it's the worst one. There are legions of enemies that are all attacking you, tons of rooms to go through, and half the levels in the dark, where I had a difficult time seeing the platforms. I was desperate for Silver's playthrough to end at this point. Have I mentioned how long these stages are? Counting the loading screens, I was in this level for 17 total minutes. That is not okay. And then during the final battle, I glitched through the boss near the end and died. One last bug that kills me for the road. To give 06 some credit, Silver gets to do one exciting thing in the episode when he catches a giant fireball and flings it back at the boss. And with that, I am finally done with this campaign. As I watched the credits roll, I realized that I enjoyed very little of this episode's gameplay. I liked some of the platforming shortcuts, and I think that was basically it. Everything else was either boring or frustrating. It barely even feels like a Sonic game when the main character has no speed. The whole time I kept thinking, this is conceptually really cool with Silver's flight and telekinesis abilities. He's pretty different from the other characters we've played as before. And yet, he's the lamest character in execution. Silver's playthrough is horrible. It's a boring combat loop for 3.5 hours. Only one episode to go, and it's with Shadow the Hedgehog.
Death to all who oppose me!
Oh sweet Jesus, don't hurt me again. Let's kick things off with White Acropolis. Shadow and Sonic once again play similarly to each other, although there are more gameplay differences between them than before. The main focus of Shadow's levels are combat. Right now, this means you have to mash the homing attack on enemies. It's not fun. Shadow also has a projectile in the form of the Chaos Spear, but I think this ability is almost useless. It can stun enemies, however it's very rare you want to do that instead of directly attacking them. We play as Rouge in the level, and her gameplay is almost the same as with Knuckles, except her bomb attack is much better at fighting Eggman's robots. Although it's still irritating when I get stuck to walls. The vehicles from Shadow of 5 return in this campaign, and they're much less functional. The first is a buggy that has very wonky physics, and is once again slower than your base run speed. There's a side mission where you race other cars with it, and it's hilarious getting to use this unfinished mechanic for nearly 2 minutes. When I got back to the hub world, I discovered that the inclines in 06 are very glitchy. Like, what is happening here? Kingdom Valley is the following stage, and it's the worst one in the episode. Come to think of it, I've hated this level in every campaign. In one section, Rouge has to find 3 keys, and playing as her for minutes at a time in a wide open area with no radar is not enjoyable. Clearing this takes us to the hovercraft. You use this to go across water, and you can shoot at these towers and boxes. It does control well, and there's another section with it later on that I thought was decent. But here it's awful, because if you get hit by these collapsing towers, you instantly die. You have to play this whole section extremely slowly, and it is painful. This was the closest I came to getting a game over, and I really did not want to replay the stage. To make matters worse, I died near the end because my controls locked, and the collision pushed me off the stage. What is this nonsense? Yeah, this stage is trash. Once we're past Kingdom Valley, the rest of the vehicle segments in the episode are okay. I think I like them because there is a sense of speed, and they mostly work correctly. These hang glider sections are alright, and while the motorcycle is clunky, it gets the job done. I played through Crisis City, and I realized that most of Shadow stages feel uninspired. They mainly borrow the existing level design from the other playthroughs, except you're playing through them with Shadow, whose gameplay I find boring because I'm simply homing attacking a lot. I wasn't enjoying his levels at this point. Then things started to turn around during Flame Core. Earlier in the episode, Shadow got the move Chaos Boost that turns him red when he fills up his meter. The game does a poor job explaining how this works, but I finally figured out what it does. If you hold down the A button, Shadow automatically teleports to and defeats multiple enemies in a row. This in turn fills up the meter, so the goal of every stage is to activate the boost and use it to quickly kill every enemy you see to extend the transformation. Now that I understood this vital mechanic, I can enjoy the levels and combat more. It was far from perfect, since you need to beat too many enemies to fill up the meter, and the teleport is definitely inconsistent, but I was able to have some fun. Sadly, I hate the next boss fight. It's very slow, because you spend 90% of it just waiting in place. Sonic also had to go through this boss, and it was bad there, but I had a much worse experience with it this time. I kept dying. It was a miserable experience. Rouge plays through Silver's version of Tropical Jungle, and it's one of the best stages in 06, solely because you can skip almost everything with her glide. It's time for 2 back-to-back boss fights against this guy Mephiles, one with Shadow and the other with Omega. Omega's probably my favorite side character in the game. He feels the most complete. His gameplay is that he shoots at enemies either in the air or on the ground. His attacks do solid damage, his ground speed is solid, he can hover in the air, and he's functional. Finally, a side character who is enjoyable to play as. The next few levels with Shadow are okay. The level design is still recycled, but at least the vehicles in combat are somewhat engaging. Now we get one of the most shocking moments in the game.
Agent Shadow, E123 Omega has engaged Mephiles. Head to the Wave Ocean, head to Wave Ocean. Agent Shadow, E123 Omega has engaged Mephiles. Head to Wave Ocean immediately.
Yes, they left in an outtake. That is so embarrassing. Shadow's campaign definitely picks up near the end. I actually enjoyed Wave Ocean and Dusty Desert because their level design is mostly new, and we're only using Shadow and Omega. Although it is pathetic the final hang glider section can be beaten without moving. They were 100% rushing to finish this episode. Shadow's final boss is pretty fun, since you need to build up the Chaos Boost to hit him. It's a well-designed fight. Mephiles goes down, and we are done. I really disliked this playthrough at the beginning because it was boring, but it did slightly grow on me once I got the hang of the combat and the vehicles. It's in between the Sonic and Silver campaigns in terms of quality, which means it was pretty bad. Before we move on, I should mention that like the previous games, there is a hard mode for every level if you're craving more Sonic 06. The multiplayer mode is returned too. I can appreciate that it has a lot more stages to play through than the versions in Heroes and Shadow of 5. The problem is this game sucks, so your friend is probably going to be annoyed with you afterwards. What I hate is if you play the battle mode, it's supposed to be a race, and yet there's an overload of enemies to fight that you're constantly slowing down. It was the first time I got bored playing one of these multiplayers. My favorite feature is if you play as Silver, you can freeze your friend in place for a very long amount of time. It only ends if you need to use another psychic move. It is extremely dumb. There's no shot they playtested this. Funny story, when my friends and I were younger, one of us owned 06, and we would play this mode together. He would only use Silver to mess with us. It was frustrating and hilarious. Okay, we are finally done with all the playthroughs. Let's get into the last episode. Wait, I didn't talk about the story yet. Aw, man.
What's the point of all this? It'll never end.
I'm gonna begin with the Sonic episode. Remember how Eggman kidnapped Elise in the opening? Well, that one sentence basically summarizes Sonic's entire story. Eggman kidnaps Elise, and then Sonic saves her. Eggman kidnaps Elise, and then Sonic saves her. It happens 4 times before the episode is over. I'm sorry, 5 times. At one point in Silver's story, Elise gets rescued by Amy, and then kidnapped again for no reason. There are other events that happen here, like Silver trying to kill Sonic, or the group getting sent to the future, but they're not very important to this individual episode. The main topic to discuss is the romance. Yeah, Sonic and Elise fall in love with each other. It is weird. There's something disturbing about watching Sonic date a semi-realistic human woman. Especially in 06, when he looks like a bobblehead compared to her. Seriously, why is his head so massive in this game? And the romance doesn't feel natural because we don't know much about Elise as a person except that she's an orphan and can't cry. I don't understand why Sonic is attracted to her unless he's trying to marry into her money or something. The terrible English lip syncing makes it even harder to take any of this seriously. Although on the bright side, the 4 kids voice actors overall do a better job here than in Shadow the Hedgehog. For example, Jason Griffith is pretty good as Sonic in Shadow, and Lacey Chabert is doing the best she can with Elise. Not all of them are winners though, like the voice actors for Silver and Omega. Even if I ignore the romance, I find the main plot being Elise gets kidnapped over and over again incredibly lazy. You guys couldn't come up with anything else for the main character to do? At the end of Kingdom Valley, Eggman somehow pilots his ship wrong, and he and Elise die.
Elise!
Nah, the game keeps going. Sonic and Silver travel back through time to save her. The one compliment I'll give this story is the final cinematic where Sonic and Elise escape Eggman's base is super exciting. And as awful as the romance is, it is funny in an ironic, what am I watching way. Which is more than I can say for the Silver episode. Silver the Hedgehog is from a future where an immortal fire monster called Iblis was unleashed, and it has taken over the world. Silver constantly defeats Iblis, but the demon always returns. It's like a force of nature. One day after battling Iblis with his friend Blaze, they meet Mephiles, who looks like Shadow, if the developers rendered him incorrectly.
You need to find the being originally responsible for this catastrophe.
Mephiles tells them Sonic is the Iblis trigger, and they can save the future if they go back in time and murder him. Silver and Blaze believe Mephiles because they see a gif of Sonic surrounded by fire. They don't see him awaken Iblis, but that gif is damning. Now they want to kill Sonic, even though Mephiles is like the most sus person ever. He looks like a bad guy, sounds evil, and doesn't even have a mouth. That doesn't raise any red flags. Also, Mephiles' name comes from Mephistopheles, a demon in German folklore. How do Silver and Blaze not know this? Are they supposed to be stupid? Are there no books in the future? Silver meets Amy, and they both try to track down Sonic together. But she doesn't know that he wants to kill Sonic. So when Silver's about to execute him, Amy steps in.
His actions will cause the devastation of my world, so I must!
No! I don't believe it. Even if that was true. If I had to choose between the world and Sonic, I would choose Sonic.
God, I'm sick of these games having terrible writing. Amy is correct in this situation, but the actual dialogue is poorly written. It should be something like this. I know Sonic's character. He would never do this. I would trust him to make the right decision. We next get a crazy scene where Silver and Blaze talk about if it's right to kill one person to save the world. In my head, I remember this dialogue as Blaze being reluctant to help with Mephiles' plan. However, to my surprise, it's the exact opposite. She's like, shut up, Silver. We have to murder Sonic to save the future. It's what that guy told us. You know, the creepy guy with no mouth. She doesn't even hesitate. Sonic would likely be dead by now if Blaze found him first. Silver then tries to kill Sonic again, only to be stopped by Shadow. I have to say that Silver is very unlikable in the story because he never spares Sonic on his own. He needs two different people to stop him from executing an innocent person. That's not very heroic. Maybe that's why everyone loves this scene.
Chaos control!
Shadow and Silver activate Chaos Control at the same time, creating a portal they can travel through time with. They go back into the past to a lab where the King of Soliana is experimenting on Mephiles and Iblis. Things go wrong, and both are released, forcing the two Hedgehogs to split up to seal away their antagonists. When Silver tries to contain Iblis, the Dying King tells him that's impossible unless he seals the creature into Little Elise because of her royal blood or something. After finishing the exposition, the king dies. So the whole game, Iblis is sealed away in Elise, and it'll stay that way unless she cries. This is why Eggman kidnaps her all the time. He knows she contains the flames of disaster and wants to harness that power. The issue with this twist is it's stupid. We're supposed to believe that Elise wakes up, finds her dad died, and doesn't cry because he told her not to, and that she has never cried in the decades since. What? How am I supposed to believe any of this? This is not how people act at all, especially children. And can we talk about how the government of Soliana is messed up? They clearly have the worst security ever, a dumb king, and a princess who's in love with an animal. This is why monarchies suck. Silver goes back to the present and reunites with Sonic, having completed his character arc where he learned not to execute an innocent person. They team up to rescue Elise, and when she dies, it's Silver who helps Sonic travel through time. By the way, they never discuss the idea that time travel can mess up the present in this story. That never crosses anyone's mind. And it goes without saying that because of the time travel focus, the story won't ever make sense, since time travel itself is a crazy concept that doesn't work when you start to think about it. Silver and Blaze return to the future to seal away Iblis. This ending makes no sense, and I hate it. Silver tries to do what the king did with Elise, but finds that he can't be the vessel. However, Blaze can, because she has fire powers or something? What?
Don't worry. My soul is already alit with flames.
She then tells Silver to use Chaos Control to place her in another dimension. Wait, it can do that? Silver never uses Chaos Control, yet somehow Blaze still fades away. Why does that happen? And her emotional goodbye to Silver doesn't work because I barely know anything about these characters besides their philosophy on premeditated murder. There is a great idea here where someone has to be a vessel and the only candidate is Silver's best friend, his only friend. They succeed at the end, yet it's a hollow victory since Blaze won't be in the bright new future. I love all that conceptually, but it doesn't work when I don't know or like these characters. This whole story is abysmal. I can't believe that most of it is centered on Silver trying to kill Sonic, with nothing else going on. I honestly think it's worse than the Sonic campaign because at least those characters are more intelligent and likable. The best part about beating Silver's episode is it meant I got to hear Dreams of an Absolution. It's Silver's main theme, and I absolutely love it. It's my favorite vocal track in any Sonic game, hands down. The LB vs. JS version is amazing too. As a whole, the soundtrack is phenomenal in 06. It's one of the greatest in the series. Every track is pleasant to listen to. My personal favorite aside from the vocal songs is the Results theme. It's very somber and peaceful. The music is definitely the best part about the game. While we're on the subject of presentation, I don't think the graphics are as nice. The character models aren't great, and some textures look straight out of a PS2 game. Oh, and the NPCs in Soliana are hideous. Returning to the plot, we have Shadow's story. Immediately I'm confused because we find out Shadow is now working for Gun, even though he hates them and injured thousands of their soldiers in the last game. I guess he really did move on from Maria's death. What is it with characters who should hate Gun going on to work for that agency in this series? Is no one else hiring? I don't understand. Okay, so Shadow and Rouge need to get the scepter. Eggman tries to steal it, and during a scuffle, the scepter breaks open and Mephiles is released. He bases himself off Shadow's, Shadow, and acts like they've already met. He then teleports the two into the future, where they meet up with Sonic's group. Shadow's goal is to try to get back to the present and seal Mephiles again. From here, the narrative becomes a conventional time travel story. It sets up mysteries and reveals the answers come from the characters themselves time traveling. For example, Mephiles knows about Shadow in the present because it turns out that Shadow is the one who sealed him in the scepter when Silver and Shadow go into the past. This premise is definitely more interesting to watch than repeatedly saving the same character over and over again. My favorite part of the story is when Mephiles tries to tempt Shadow into joining him. He reveals that when Iblis is released, humanity blames Shadow and uses his friend Omega to lock him up. After hearing about this dark future and being offered the chance to punish humanity with Mephiles, here's what Shadow says.
I determine my own destiny.
That is raw as hell. It was the first time in hours I felt genuine happiness playing this game. It's legitimately a cool moment. I enjoy how the plot shows Shadow's character growth over the years. Before he had to deal with a tragic past, and now he's faced with a nightmarish future. This time he immediately chooses to do the right thing and fight against Mephiles. That's nice. It makes for a compelling character. And they did it without talking about Jared Robotnik, or aliens, or any of that crap. Even the other characters get some good moments. I like how Rouge tells Shadow she'll always have his back. And Mephiles is a solid villain. I love how creepy he is with his animations and his two weird forms. He's so evil, and he loves it. It makes him fun to watch.
Oh, how ironic fate can be.
And it's a cool idea that Shadow has his own rival character, who's way more sinister than he was back in SA2. The ending cutscene where Shadow takes off his inhibitor rings to fight Mephiles' clone army is another hype moment. I actually enjoyed this story. If it was in a different game, many people will call it one of the best narratives in the series. So overall, the gameplay in 06 mostly sucks except for the Sonic episode, and the story is terrible with the exception of the Shadow campaign. Poor Silver is always a loser. We've reached the last episode. Within the first 2 minutes, Mephiles shoots Sonic in the back with a laser beam, instantly killing him. I guess we're not being metaphorical anymore. 06 literally kills Sonic. Wow. Elise cries, and this releases Iblis. I've heard some people complain that Mephiles could have done this hours earlier and skipped the whole Silver manipulation thing. That's true, but let's be honest. This dude is so evil, I can 100% buy him trying to manipulate other people to do his dirty work for him, just for the fun of it. Mephiles and Iblis merge together into a godlike being called Solaris, who controls all of space and time. This screws up reality and merges the past, present, and future together or something. I don't know. The point is Silver gets teleported here. Not Blaze though, since she died sealing away Iblis. Even though Iblis is here in the present right now. Man, time travel makes no sense. The group decides they need the Chaos Emeralds to stop Solaris and bring Sonic back to life. I guess the Chaos Emeralds can do anything in this game. This takes us to the final level, appropriately titled End of the World. The alternate title is End of My Patience. This stage is horrible. You play as 7 different characters in recycled stages, and their goal is to obtain the Chaos Emeralds. The problem is there are rifts spawning that can suck your characters in and instantly kill them. Then there are red rifts that throw objects at you. How are you even supposed to avoid some of these? You need to find these switches that temporarily stop the rifts, and then dodge the new ones that are appearing. The worst sections in the stage predictably belong to Silver and Amy, since they're slow as hell. Silver's portion alone took me 5 minutes. And your lives reset to 5 here, so getting a game over is very easy. However, the worst thing about this stage is each section has its own loading screen for a total of 7. Oh my god, enough with the loading screens. This whole level's a nightmare. Could things get any worse? The group gather the Chaos Emeralds that Elise will use to revive Sonic, and...
Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no.
It's no use!
This game is now pro-bestiality and necrophilia. Yikes. Did she really have to kiss the corpse, guys? Come on. All 3 Hedgehogs go super to fight Solaris in the past, present, and future. This is what everything has been building to. It's time for the final battle.
I guess it's not gonna be that easy.
I like the design of Solaris, where he's a Final Fantasy god monster. I cannot say the same for his fight though. It took me so long to figure out how to hit him. I think he frequently changes what moves he's going to use, and one of the Hedgehogs should always be able to counter him. Like when he shields with his hands, you need to be silver, and then throw stuff at him. I'm not 100% sure if that's how it works though. It's also hard to visually tell when a move is going to deal damage to him. At least you should never die here, because your rings reset when you switch to a different Hedgehog. After 2 long phases, Solaris goes down, and at last, Sonic 06 is complete. In the ending cutscene, Sonic and Elise go back in time to when Solaris was just a small flame. We find out that Elise's father wanted to harness Solaris to travel through time to see his wife again. I think that's a neat backstory. We have a king who has all this power, yet what he longs for most is his deceased wife. In his attempt to reunite with her, he dies and winds up causing the apocalypse because he tried to play God with the universe. Additionally, I kinda like how it is a hard choice for Elise to extinguish Solaris at the end, because it means she'll never meet Sonic. It parallels Shadow's story, where he knows the future is going to turn out poorly for him, yet he still does the right thing. Here it's the reverse, where they would like to be together in the future, but saving the world means they never meet. So they have to sacrifice their happiness for the greater good. Oh my god. Did I just analyze this stupid story where 20 minutes ago a human kissed a dead animal and brought him back to life? What is wrong with me? Elise blows out Solaris, and the whole game gets wiped from continuity, saving everyone thousands of dollars on therapy bills. The final cinematic is pretty cool. It's a nice callback to the opening, where the festival goes right this time. And the shot of Sonic looking at the moon is fantastic. If only the rest of the game was as good as this moment. After 06 was released, it was panned by everyone. Sega realized they messed up by putting out such a terrible product due to corporate greed. They took to heart a lot of criticism people had with this game. The next main series entry was Sonic Unleashed, where they moved past the adventure-style gameplay in an attempt to save the series. Most notably, all of Sonic's friends were no longer playable since they were so hated in 06. The crazy thing about Unleashed is Sonic being the only playable character became the new status quo for the next 15 years, until Sonic Frontiers' DLC came out. This weird guy doesn't count. The other characters still showed up, yet they were never playable. In hindsight, I think this was an overcorrection because many people like myself love the adventure games and the other characters. Doing something different was the right idea at the time, but I wish they brought back more of these features sooner than 2023. In the almost 20 years since 06 was released, a fan game has been developed called Project 06 that takes the stages from the original game and remakes it for PC. Except they all work correctly now, and it's genuinely a great game, proving the issue wasn't the concepts in 06, it was always the poor execution. Now that we've discussed everything, I think I'm ready to uncurl. I can confidently say that Sonic 06 is horrible. It's super buggy, the story is horrendous, the loading screens take forever, and 2 of the campaigns are boring or frustrating. And yet, I didn't hate it. There's a lot to dislike, but the good level design and some okay characters saved this game for me. I still stand by the fact that I enjoy the Sonic episode. And while the story is awful, it has redeeming aspects, and I can appreciate that they tried to make another epic story like in SA2. To be honest, even though 06 was very bad, I would gladly play it over Shadow of 5 any day. That game was polished, but it was a tedious slog to get through. And the writing was somehow worse than this fetish stuff. At least in 06, the main characters are generally likable, and the story follows a somewhat logical sequence of events from scene to scene. Man, that is such a small compliment. Shadow of 5 really sucked. The tragedy about this game is there was tons of missed potential because it was rushed out the door, like the mock speed sections, Silver's powers, or most of the side characters. I sincerely believe that if 06 was completed, it would be one of the best titles in the series. It has a lot going for it, and I'm incredibly happy P06 exists, so we finally get to see that in action. Even Sega themselves are starting to recognize the good ideas in this game. Last year we had Mephiles and Kingdom Valley, both return in Shadow Generations. And Sonic as a brand is doing better than ever right now. Maybe in one of the movies, they can tackle the story again and do it correctly. That would be pretty cool. The point is, even though 06 is not a good game, there's a lot people like me appreciate about it. Looking back at these Sonic games has been really fun. I know the quality has gotten worse, and none of them are very consistent, but us fans have a blast with them anyway. Such as Sonic's levels in Adventure 1, the epic story in SA2, or the cool team gimmick of Heroes. All these games are special, and I'm happy I was able to explain why they fascinate me so much. I'll always love this era of the series. Ever since I was a kid, it's been a dream of mine to make reviews of these games, and I cannot believe it has finally happened. These types of videos are what I grew up watching, and they're the reason why I tried many of my favorite games. I am extremely satisfied that I have come full circle. I put months of work into the series, trying to make the best content I possibly could. I hope you had fun watching it. With all that being said, I only have one thing left. Sayonara.